There are moments in life when we look around and wonder, where is God? Is He really helping me? The struggles feel overwhelming. The prayers seem unanswered, and the weight of life presses down with no relief in sight. But what if I told you that God is not silent? What if I told you that even in the darkest moments, He is working behind the scenes in ways you may not yet see? Sometimes we expect God's help to come as a dramatic miracle. A parted sea, a voice from heaven, a sudden breakthrough. But more often, His help comes in quiet, unexpected ways. It comes through the people He places in your life, the opportunities He opens, the protection He gives without you even realizing it. It comes when He removes things that were never meant for you, when He strengthens you through trials, when He gives you peace even in the middle of the storm. If you have ever wondered if God is helping you, if you have ever questioned whether He is at work in your life, then listen closely. Because today, I want to show you 7 signs that prove He has never left your side. There are moments in life when things fall into place in ways we never expected. You may have been struggling, praying, and searching for an answer, and suddenly an opportunity appears, one you never saw coming. This is not random. It is not mere coincidence. It is the hand of God moving in your life, orchestrating events beyond what you could imagine. When doors open that you never knocked on, it is often a clear sign that God is working behind the scenes, preparing blessings for you long before you even realize they exist. Think about the times in your life when an opportunity came out of nowhere. Maybe it was a job you didn't even apply for, but somehow your name was mentioned in the right place at the right time. Maybe it was an invitation to a gathering where you met someone who would change the course of your life. Or perhaps you were searching for direction and suddenly a new path became visible. These are not accidents. God is always at work, positioning you where you need to be, aligning circumstances so that His plan for your life unfolds in perfect timing. God's timing is not always our timing. Sometimes we feel like nothing is happening. We knock on doors and they remain shut. We send out applications, make phone calls, put in the effort, and yet the results seem slow or non-existent. In those moments, doubt begins to creep in. We wonder if God is listening, if He cares, if He even sees what we are going through. But then, when we least expect it, a door swings open. Not just any door, but the right door. A door we didn't even know existed. There are many stories in the Bible that illustrate this truth. One of the most powerful is the story of Joseph. He was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and later imprisoned for something he didn't do. For years it must have felt like every door was closing in his face. But all along God was setting him up for something greater. At the right time, Joseph was brought before Pharaoh and given a position of great authority. In one moment, his life changed completely. The doors that had been shut for so long were suddenly thrown wide open. What seemed like setbacks were actually setups for God's plan to be revealed. The same is true in our lives. There are seasons where nothing seems to be working out, where prayers feel unanswered, where progress seems slow. But during those times, God is working behind the scenes, arranging things in ways we cannot yet see. And when the time is right, the door will open. Sometimes the doors that open don't look like what we expected. We may have a vision for how our life should go, the exact path we want to take. And when things happen differently, we hesitate. We wonder if this new path is truly from God. But one of the ways we can recognize His guidance is through peace. When God opens a door for you, there will be a deep, unshakable peace about walking through it. It may not make logical sense. It may even seem too good to be true. But deep down you will know that this is where you are meant to go. It's important to stay open to the unexpected ways God moves. He doesn't always work in straight lines. Sometimes He takes us on detours, bringing us through experiences that prepare us for what's ahead. The job you didn't get, the relationship that didn't work out, the plans that didn't unfold the way you wanted. These are not failures. They are stepping stones. And when the right door opens, you will look back and realize that every twist and turn was leading you exactly where you needed to be. When doors open that you never knocked on, don't be afraid to step through them. Trust that God is leading you. What He has for you is greater than anything you could have planned for yourself. He sees the full picture while we only see a small part. So when an unexpected opportunity presents itself, take a moment to pray, ask for wisdom, and then walk forward in faith, knowing that God has already gone ahead of you, preparing the way. Life is full of moments when things don't go as planned. You work hard for something, pray for it, believe it's the right path, and yet the door shuts in your face. It could be a job you desperately wanted, a relationship you thought would last, or a dream you invested time and energy into, only to see it slip away. In those moments, disappointment sets in. You question why things didn't work out, why after so much effort, the answer was still no. It's easy to feel frustrated, to wonder if God has forgotten you or if you're being punished. But what if that closed door was actually God's protection? What if it was a divine redirection towards something better? Many times we only see the immediate loss, but God sees the full picture. We focus on what we wanted, but He focuses on what we need. There are things we chase in life that, if given to us at the wrong time or in the wrong way, could lead to harm. It could be a relationship that seems perfect on the surface, but would have brought heartache in the long run. It could be a career path that looked promising, but would have taken us away from our true purpose. God knows what is ahead. And when He closes a door, it's because He is guiding us towards something better, something aligned with His perfect will. Think of a child reaching for something dangerous, perhaps a sharp knife on the table. The child doesn't understand why their parent quickly moves it away. In their mind, it looked interesting, maybe even fun to hold. But the parent knows better. The parent is protecting them from harm, even though the child may be too young to understand. That is how God works in our lives. He sees what we cannot. When He removes something or blocks a path, it is not to hurt us, but to shield us from something that would not have been for our good. There are countless examples of this in the Bible. One of the most well-known is Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt. They had spent years in slavery, crying out for freedom. When they were finally released, they expected a quick journey to the promised land. But instead, they faced obstacles, delays, and what seemed like unnecessary hardships. At one point, they came to the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army closing in behind them. It must have felt like God had abandoned them, that He had led them into a trap. But in reality, God was about to perform one of the greatest miracles in history. He parted the sea and made a way where there was no way. If they had taken a different route, they might have been captured or destroyed. The delays and detours were actually God's way of protecting them. The same is true in our lives. Sometimes a delay is God's way of saying, not yet. Other times, a rejection is His way of saying, I have something better. But in every case, a closed door is never the end of the story. It is a redirection, a sign that God is still in control, leading you to where you truly need to be. In our impatience, we may try to force doors open that were never meant for us. We push, we strive, we refuse to accept that the path has been blocked. But in doing so, we risk stepping outside of God's plan. It takes faith to trust that a no today could be the setup for a greater yes tomorrow. It takes trust to believe that what looks like a failure is actually a divine intervention. Looking back, many people can see that the very thing they once cried over, the door they so badly wanted to walk through, was actually not meant for them. And in time, they realize why. They see how God protected them, how He redirected them towards something greater. That job loss led to a better opportunity. That broken relationship made way for the right person. That denied request opened the door for something unexpected and far more fulfilling. It is in these moments of rejection and redirection that we learn to rely on God's wisdom instead of our own. We learn to trust that His plans are always higher, always better. And while we may not always understand in the moment in time, it becomes clear that every closed door was a step towards something greater. Life is filled with unexpected storms. At times everything seems to be going well, and then suddenly a crisis appears out of nowhere. It could be the loss of a loved one, financial difficulties, a broken relationship, or a deep struggle within yourself. In these moments, fear and anxiety can overwhelm even the strongest person. The weight of uncertainty presses down and doubt creeps in, whispering thoughts of hopelessness. But then, in the midst of the storm, there is a peace that doesn't make sense. A stillness in your heart, a quiet voice, reminding you that you are not alone. This peace is not something you can manufacture on your own. It is the peace of God, a gift that comes when you trust that He is in control, even when everything around you seems to be falling apart. Throughout history, people have faced unimaginable trials, yet some remain unshaken. What gives them this strength? It is not because they have everything figured out or because their situation is easy. It is because they know that no matter how strong the wind blows, no matter how fierce the storm, they are anchored in something greater than themselves. The peace they carry is not the absence of trouble, but the presence of God in the midst of it. One of the greatest biblical examples of this kind of peace is found in the story of Jesus and His disciples on the Sea of Galilee. They were sailing across the water when a violent storm arose. The waves crashed against the boat, and fear gripped their hearts. These were experienced fishermen, men who had seen storms before. Yet this one was so intense that they believed they were about to die. But where was Jesus? He was asleep. While they were panicking, He rested. When they finally woke Him, crying out for help, He simply spoke, "Peace, be still," and the storm ceased. But before calming the sea, He asked them, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" This moment was not just about Jesus displaying His power over nature. It was a lesson in trust. The disciples were focused on the storm, but Jesus was showing them that real peace doesn't come from a calm sea. It comes from knowing who is in the boat with you. The storm may rage, but if God is with you, then you are secure. This is the kind of peace that defies understanding. Many people try to find peace in temporary things. Some seek it in money, thinking financial security will protect them from life's hardships. Others seek it in relationships, believing that if they have the right person by their side, everything will be okay. Some turn to distractions, numbing their worries with entertainment, work, or unhealthy habits. But none of these things provide lasting peace. They may offer relief for a moment, but when the next storm comes, fear returns and anxiety takes over again. True peace can only come from something unshakable, something that remains constant no matter what life throws at you. God's peace is different. It doesn't depend on circumstances. It doesn't change with the seasons of life. Even in the most difficult times, when everything around you says you should be afraid, His peace guards your heart and mind. This kind of peace is not based on the absence of trouble, but on the presence of trust. Trust that God is still working, even when you can't see it. Trust that He has not abandoned you, even when you feel alone. Trust that the storm will not last forever, and even if it does, you will not be destroyed by it. There are people who have walked through unimaginable tragedies, loss, sickness, betrayal, and yet they carry a sense of calm that others can't explain. This peace is not natural, it is supernatural. It is the result of surrendering to God and believing that He is in control even when life feels out of control. It is a reminder that no storm lasts forever, and no situation is beyond His reach. The peace of God is not just a feeling. It is a foundation that holds you steady when everything else is shaking. There are moments in life when you feel completely alone, as if no one understands what you're going through. The weight of your struggles presses down, and even when surrounded by people, there is an emptiness that lingers. But then, in the midst of it all, someone enters your life at just the right time. They offer a word of encouragement, a listening ear, or a helping hand when you least expect it. It could be an old friend reaching out after years of no contact, a stranger who speaks exactly what you needed to hear, or a mentor who suddenly appears when you are at a crossroads. These are not coincidences. They are signs that God is working, placing the right people in your life to guide, support, and strengthen you when you need it most. God often works through people to accomplish His plans. He knows that life was never meant to be lived in isolation, and He sends the right individuals at the right moments. These people may come into your life for a season or a lifetime, but their presence serves a purpose. Sometimes they bring comfort during difficult times. Other times they challenge you to grow, pushing you toward your potential. There are even moments when they provide an opportunity that changes the course of your life completely. The Bible is filled with examples of God using people to help others. One of the most powerful stories is that of Ruth and Naomi. Naomi had lost everything: her husband, her sons, her security. She was bitter and broken, feeling as if God had abandoned her. But Ruth, her daughter-in-law, refused to leave her side. She remained faithful, walking with Naomi through her pain, providing companionship, and ultimately becoming the key to Naomi's redemption. Ruth's loyalty was not just an act of kindness, it was God's way of reminding Naomi that she was not forgotten. Through Ruth, Naomi was led to a new beginning, and God restored what she had lost. In your own life, you may have experienced something similar. Maybe there was a time when you were on the verge of giving up, but then someone spoke words that reignited your faith. Perhaps you were searching for direction, and a person entered your life who guided you toward the right path. Sometimes the people God sends don't even realize the impact they are making. They might think they are simply offering a small gesture, but in reality, they are acting as instruments of God's love and provision. It is also important to recognize that God can use unexpected people to help you. Sometimes the ones who challenge you the most, the ones who frustrate you, or even those who oppose you can be part of His plan. They may push you out of your comfort zone, force you to rely on God more deeply, or prepare you for something greater. Not every person sent into your life will be easy to deal with, but that doesn't mean they are not part of God's plan. God not only places people in your life to help you, but He also calls you to be that person for someone else. There are people around you right now who need encouragement, wisdom, or simply someone to remind them that they are not alone. Just as God sends others to help you, He wants to use you to bless and uplift those who are struggling. When you feel the urge to reach out to someone, to offer a kind word, or to step in when you see a need, do not ignore it. You may be the answer to someone's prayer, the sign they have been looking for, the confirmation that God has not forgotten them. Recognizing the people God places in your life requires sensitivity and discernment. It means being open to unexpected connections, paying attention to the ways others impact you, and trusting that even brief encounters can have divine significance. It also means appreciating those who have stood by you through difficult times and understanding that their presence was never random. The right people at the right time are a clear sign that God is guiding your journey, ensuring that you are never truly alone. There are times when life feels like an uphill battle, where every step forward is met with resistance. You work hard, pray, and do everything in your power to make things happen, yet progress seems slow and obstacles appear at every turn. But then, something changes. The path that once seemed impossible begins to open. Opportunities arise that you never expected. The resources you lacked suddenly become available. You meet the right people, or doors that were once tightly shut begin to swing wide open. These moments are not mere coincidences. They are signs that God is clearing the way for you, guiding you toward the purpose He has set before you. Throughout history, God has been in the business of making a way where there is no way. Time and time again, He has shown that when something is aligned with His will, no force on earth can stand against it. When He wants to move you forward, He will remove the barriers in your path. This does not always mean that the journey will be easy or without struggles. But it does mean that when it is time for you to step into a new season, He will make it possible, even if it seems impossible by human standards. A powerful example of this is found in the story of the Israelites leaving Egypt. After years of slavery, they were finally set free, yet their journey to the Promised Land was not without challenges. One of the most daunting moments came when they reached the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army closing in behind them. By all logical reasoning, they were trapped. There was no way forward, no escape route. Fear and doubt filled their hearts. But God was not done writing their story. In a miraculous display of power, He parted the sea, making a way where none existed. They walked across on dry ground, and when their enemies tried to follow, the waters closed, ensuring that what once held them captive would never trouble them again. This same God who parted the sea is the one who is working in your life today. You may not see the full picture, and you may not understand why certain things are happening the way they are, but He is orchestrating every detail. Sometimes He removes obstacles little by little, teaching patience and trust along the way. Other times He moves suddenly, shifting things in a way that leaves no doubt that it was His doing. One of the clearest signs that God is making a way for you is when opportunities come that you did not strive for on your own. Perhaps you have been searching for a job, sending out applications with no response, and then, out of nowhere, an opportunity presents itself through an unexpected connection. Maybe you have been struggling financially, wondering how you will make ends meet, and suddenly a provision comes in just at the right time. These moments are not luck or random chance. They are evidence that God is working on your behalf. At times, the way forward may not be what you expected. You may have envisioned success coming in one form, but God has a different plan. This is why it is important to stay open to His leading. What looks like a detour may actually be the best route. What seems like a delay may be necessary preparation. God does not just make a way for you to move forward. He makes a way that is best for you in the long run. It's easy to become discouraged when things do not move as quickly as you would like. But when you see progress where there was once only resistance, when things start falling into place without your own effort forcing them, take it as a sign that God is working. He is making a way, not just for your success, but for your purpose, for your calling, for the destiny He has written for you. Trust that He knows the path ahead, even when you cannot see it, and believe that the one who has led you this far will continue to guide you every step of the way. There are moments in life when everything seems to be going wrong. Doors close, plans fall apart, and no matter how much effort you put in, nothing seems to work. It can be frustrating, confusing, even painful. You may wonder why things are not going the way you expected, questioning if you are on the wrong path. But what if these setbacks are not obstacles meant to stop you, but instead signs that God is protecting you from something you cannot see? Sometimes unanswered prayers, unexpected rejections, and delays are not signs of failure, but of divine intervention. It is easy to believe that every opportunity is meant for you, that every open door should be walked through. But not all paths lead to where God wants you to be. Some roads, though they may seem promising, can lead to destruction, disappointment, or harm. God in His wisdom sees what you cannot. He knows the future, the hidden dangers, the unseen consequences. And in His love, He sometimes stops you from going down a road that would ultimately hurt you. It may not feel like protection at the time. It may feel like rejection, loss, or even punishment. But later, when you look back, you begin to realize that what you thought was a setback was actually a blessing in disguise. One of the most well-known examples of this is found in the life of Joseph. As a young man, Joseph had big dreams, literally. He saw visions of greatness, of a future where he would rise to a position of power. But before any of that could happen, he was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and later imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. From the outside, it looked like his life was nothing but one painful setback after another. But God was working behind the scenes. Each closed door was actually leading him closer to his destiny. If Joseph had never been sold into slavery, he would not have ended up in Egypt. If he had never been falsely accused, he would not have been placed in the prison where he would later meet the man who would introduce him to Pharaoh. And if he had never met Pharaoh, he would not have been elevated to the second most powerful position in the nation, ultimately saving countless lives, including his own family. What seemed like years of hardship were actually years of preparation and divine protection, guiding him exactly where he needed to be. The same principle applies in your life. Maybe you prayed for a job and didn't get it, only to later find out the company collapsed or the position would have led you into a toxic environment. Maybe a relationship you wanted so badly didn't work out, only for you to later meet someone who was truly meant for you. Maybe a door you tried to force open refused to budge because God had something far better in store. The things that don't happen in your life are just as important as the things that do. God's protection is not always obvious in the moment. It requires faith to believe that what feels like a loss is actually a rescue. It requires trust to accept that some things are not meant for you, no matter how much you may want them. It requires patience to wait for what is truly right rather than settling for what is simply available. When things do not go as planned, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is God protecting me from?" When a door closes, instead of trying to force it open, trust that God is leading you to a better one. In time, what once seemed like disappointment will reveal itself to be grace. The things you thought were holding you back were actually shielding you. The moments that broke you were actually making you stronger. The times you thought God was saying no, He was actually saying, "I have something better." His protection is not always seen in the moment, but when you trust in His plan, you will one day look back and realize that every closed door was part of His divine guidance, keeping you safe, leading you forward, and shaping you into who you were meant to be. Life is full of moments when we question if God is really helping us. We face trials, closed doors, unexpected detours, and painful losses. But when we look closer, we begin to see His hand at work. He sends the right people at the right time. He strengthens us through hardships. He opens doors no one else can open and closes the ones that would lead us to harm. He makes a way when there seems to be none, and He protects us from what we cannot see. Even when we don't understand, even when we can't feel it in the moment, He is working behind the scenes, shaping our journey with love and wisdom. So if you're in a season of waiting, a time of uncertainty, or walking through a storm, hold on. God has not abandoned you. He is guiding you, preparing you, and leading you to something greater. Trust His timing, His plan, and His process. One day you will look back and realize that every step, every delay, every hardship was part of His perfect design. May you walk forward in faith, knowing that He is with you. Good luck on your journey, and thank you for listening. God bless you.